Inform, investigate, inspire. This is News 3 This Morning.
Right now it's 7 a.m. Tropical storm Ophelia moving through, bringing heavy rain and high winds overnight to our region. We've got the rainfall totals and how fast those wind speeds were. And take a look at this. We are just a few hours removed now from high tide, winds pushing more water onto the roads. Big spot for flooding here in the city of Norfolk, only in Bush Street, underwater, of course. We're going to let you know when those waters will rise next. With that, we say good morning, and thank you so much for choosing to start your day with us here on News 3. I'm Anthony Sabella.
And I'm meteorologist Christy Stewart.
And we got the big words right there on the screen. Tropical storm Ophelia moving through. We felt those effects last night, overnight. I lost power for a few minutes. Fortunately, the lights came back on, but of course, thousands of others dealing with that. So what do folks need to know as they get their day started today?
Yeah, still going to be dealing with those impacts as we do head throughout the day today. So still dealing with that rain and that wind. And speaking of the wind, here's some of the highest wind gust totals that we have seen within this system so far. And, you know, I was woken up around 11 p.m. with that wind just battering my windows. And that was around the time that we did report a lot of these peak wind gusts. So that was 55 miles per hour in Norfolk. At NAS Oceana and Virginia Beach, 52 mile per hour gusts were reported. Wallops Island had 51 miles per hour and Manio 49 miles per hour. So that was right on track with what we were forecasting. We're saying winds along the coast gusting up to 55 miles per hour, and that's exactly what we did see in certain locations. So very windy. We've still got another windy day in store for us today as we are going to be continuing to deal with Ophelia. So as far as rainfall so far, we've got more rain that's falling, more rain that will be impacting us, especially throughout this morning. But so far, we've had 4 inches of rain pretty much in Chesapeake, about 3 3/4 inches of rain for Edenton, 3 1/4 inches for Suffolk, as well as Elizabeth City. Across our Virginia Beach locations, we did have about 2 3/4 inches of rain, a little bit shy of that, just over 2 inches of rain in Portsmouth, and right about 2 inches for Norfolk, 1.8 inches in Currituck. So we're still seeing more rain being dumped. These totals expecting to see another inch and a half added as we head throughout the day today. Live look outside over the bay cam. Look at that, the sun trying to peek through those clouds, but a lot of cloud cover outside. Still pretty rough surf out there on the bay as well. We've got those northeasterly winds of about 10 miles per hour. Winds will be picking up more as we head throughout the rest of the day today. Back up to 20 to 30 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts around 40 miles per hour. Eventually, those winds start to die down heading into tomorrow morning. About 15 mile per hour winds continuing to die down throughout the afternoon. We've got one more round of high tide to look out for. That's going to be 3 p.m. today, another 2 to 3 feet of inundation. So expect some of those roads to become impassable again, but conditions rapidly improve for us on Sunday. Still a bit of a wet start to the morning. We've got another rain band that's moving through the Albemarle Sound right now, headed up towards the northern portion. So we're going to be dealing with some more rain, some heavy downpours at times as we head throughout the rest of this morning. I'll let you know when we can expect to finally dry out coming up in just a little bit.
All right, thanks so much, Christy. And right now, in response to the storm, both Virginia and North Carolina, they are under a state of emergency. It's so the state's leaders can make sure fuel and supplies are ready to go if needed. The Virginia Emergency Support Team has been activated, and North Carolina's State Emergency Response Team is ready to respond as needed, too. The state of emergency also triggers anti-price gouging rules to control costs for important items like food, water, and batteries. All right, now at 7:04, taking another live look at the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia Beach. You can see a pretty nice sunrise shaping up, but we do know more wind and rain to come. And as the storm was building Friday night from Tropical Storm Ophelia, News 3 sent crews all across the region to see how communities were getting prepared. Reporter Leandra Head was in Virginia Beach.
Wet and windy conditions here at the oceanfront. We're actually on Atlantic and 16th Street, and the wind has picked up significantly just within the last few hours. Now, take a look behind me. Not a soul in sight, which is a good thing. This is actually a time where you should stay inside just to avoid these wet and windy conditions. Earlier, we were at the Chesapeake Bay and not a soul in sight. Many avoiding the windy and wet conditions. I spoke to a few people out doing some last-minute grocery shopping before the rain picks up. Here's what they are most concerned about in these conditions.
I hope that my power doesn't go out because all I have are emergency flashlights, obviously, but it'll be a doozy.
High winds, just making sure that you take all of the things in outside.
Others look forward to the wet conditions.
I personally love a good storm. As long as no one is hurt in the process, I think it's a great time to hunker down and be cozy and make all the good food that you really ought not to eat.
We look forward to these storms because they blow the surf up, and then when the wind comes offshore, it cleans the waves up and we get to go surfing.
So you're a surfer?
Yeah, I am.
Will you be doing surfing today, tomorrow?
Probably tomorrow late when the wind goes west.
The Department of Emergency Management says they are closely monitoring the area. They say they anticipate the Hampton Roads area to be the hardest hit area in the state.
So not only are we looking at flooding due to just the intense amount of rainfall, as you know, with any sort of tropical weather, when we have winds that are northeast over the water, storm surge is a huge issue. So the storm surge is quite literally winds pushing that ocean water on land and creating that flooding on the immediate coastline.
Emergency management tells me that they will be staffed 24/7 for this weekend until this weekend's weather is gone. In Virginia Beach, I'm Leandra Head, News 3.
Close watch on conditions in the Outer Banks. This is a live look right now at NC-12 in Rodanthe. You can see some of the water and the sand over the road there. According to the latest update, though, from the State Department of Transportation, they say NC-12 is open and passable. Authorities are asking folks, though, not to go out unless you absolutely have to. We know things can change there pretty quickly. Again, sand and water right there on the roads. You can see it on your screen. If you've got to travel, they say drive with extreme caution. And of course, we will continue to monitor those conditions in the Outer Banks. We'll let you know how they're shaping up throughout the day. All right, back in Hampton Roads, Norfolk's Ocean View area, a neighborhood prone to flooding in spots. News 3 reporter Kelsey Jones, she spoke with families who were preparing ahead of the storm.
Flooding impacting 5th Bay Street here in the Ocean View area. If you can't tell, this is a parking lot. And if you come with me up the road, you can see more flooding here. But the worst is yet to come as more high tides, strong winds, and tidal flooding impact our area. Governor Glenn Youngkin declaring a state of emergency Friday as Tropical Storm Ophelia impacts Virginia.
This is the worst area in Ocean View for flood. This is the worst.
Ophelia bringing much rain to Hampton Roads, impacting areas like Ocean View in Norfolk that's already prone to flooding.
That black car right there, that been flooded out. She can't move it.
Where do people park when it's flooding like this?
We park up the street down there where the new houses at and under the trees, but we try not to park under the trees because the trees blow and fall on the cars.
Strong wind gusts is another concern that could possibly knock out many families' power, leading one group of friends to stock up on their groceries for the weekend.
Lots of chips, lots of beer.
Traveling from Philadelphia to Virginia for a golf trip, their friend group says they didn't know what they were getting themselves into.
Because where we're staying at, it's already flooded a little bit, so that was kind of a surprise to see.
Hampton Roads native Scott Sartain says he's not worried about the impact of Ophelia.
It ain't like this is a real hurricane. It's a tropical storm, no different than any other nor'easter we get through here.
But he did make a last-minute trip to the store to stay prepared.
Got some candles and a flashlight.
Things are expected to improve as early as Sunday as this storm moves out of here. In Norfolk, I'm Kelsey Jones, News 3.
And now, if you haven't done it yet, now is a great time to download that News 3 app. It gives you breaking alerts, up-to-the-minute details from the first warning storm team. Of course, great opportunity to maybe have it right now. And of course, for hopefully no future storms, but anything that comes our way in the future, great to have the app for too. It's free to download. WTKR.com/apps is the website for that. All right, still ahead, the local cities helping people move their vehicles to higher ground as Tropical Storm Ophelia moves through. What you need to know on that. Then, of course, meteorologist Christy Stewart, she's tracking the storm. She's back with a full weather report as we continue to watch the effects of Ophelia. Region, they've been canceled. A big one is the Alzheimer's Association Chesapeake Prevention Walk. It's now postponed. News 3 anchor Jen Lewis previewed the event this week. Well, now leaders of the event tell us it's going to happen November 18th. So not canceled, just postponed. You can find a full list, though, of impacted events by the storm right now at WTKR.com. Also right now, area cities have garages open for free for people looking to move their cars to higher ground. So if you take a look at your screen, in Norfolk, they include the York Street Garage downtown and the 43rd Street Garage near Old Dominion University. Those are open for free. Virginia Beach has opened garages at 9th and 31st Streets at the ocean front. These garages are open until various times on Sunday, and keep in mind, 4 garages in the Virginia Beach Town Center, they are always open free of charge. Right, other news now. This week marked 2 years since a shooting at a high school in Newport News. On the other side of the break, what school leaders say they've done to address safety. But first, here's Christy with a closer look at the current impact of Ophelia and moving up the coast.
Yep, Ophelia is going to be continuing to track our way, the center of it anyway, so we'll still be feeling these impacts. When we can expect to see some drier conditions and those winds to die down, I'll let you know coming up.
Years since 2 students were injured in a shooting at the school. News 3 investigator Zach Dahlheimer reveals what school leaders have done since then to address safety.
Taught me that life is short.
September 20th, 2021, one of the first days of a new school year for students at Heritage High School in Newport News, including Sterling Bailey.
It changed me as a young man.
Bailey was just starting his senior year. He says he was walking out of the cafeteria with friends when all of a sudden, just 10 feet away from him,
The first shot went off, and we thought it was like a balloon, so he wasn't really too timid. Then the second one went off, and kids were screaming, kids were running.
4 students in total were injured, including Bailey's best friend.
A part of me was really hurt.
The teen gunman, Jakari Taylor, eventually pleaded guilty to taking a gun to school and shooting 2 of his classmates. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
You really don't think a gun will come into the school.
This summer, News 3 reported on a multi-million-dollar lawsuit filed by 2 teachers against the Newport News School Board and Department of Education. The teachers allege their school did not do enough to prevent the shooting at Heritage High School. And while they say they weren't shot, they claim they did suffer physical injury and mental anguish from the chaos. The lawsuit states one of the teachers dove to the floor, hurting her legs after the sound of gunshots, a fall that she says 2 years later impaired her mobility and she now has to use a walker. The other teacher says she injured her wrist and knee after she hit the floor in a panic.
Now, district officials told me last year, in the aftermath of the shooting, school leaders ramped up random searches of book bags and classrooms. They also increased the number of walk-through metal detectors at Heritage High School, brought in more presence with security officers, and created a new 24/7 anonymous reporting line for families.
This year, I reached out to Newport News Public Schools to talk about the lawsuit and safety measures since the Heritage High shooting with the new superintendent, Dr. Michelle Mitchell, and this man.
The goal for me is for everyone to forget we exist.
Last month, my colleague Penny Commit introduced you to Mark Stewart, who came to Newport News Public Schools in June as the district's first ever executive director of crisis prevention and planning.
I have an extensive crisis management background, and a lot of people think that is taking care of a crisis after it occurs, but 95% of what we do is prevention.
A former Newport News police officer and FBI agent, Stewart is taking a layered approach to security, which includes the district bringing in free mandatory clear backpacks for all students and hiring more than 100 school security officers in addition to 10 part-time substitute officers.
In this day and age, we have to work hard to keep our students safe.
A spokesperson from Newport News Public Schools said both Stewart and Dr. Mitchell weren't available for an on-camera interview with me, but did tell me in addition to the clear backpacks and more security officers, the district has enhanced safety and security for students and staff by installing weapon detection systems in all schools, providing more security training for staff, and increasing collaboration with the city's police department and sheriff's office. As for Bailey, he's now focused on his journey as a student at Norfolk State University. While the shooting sometimes crosses his mind, he says he looks at it as a testimony.
And it helped me grow and groom me into understanding things happen in life. Life is always full of different expectations. Things will always happen when you least expect it. But it's time to keep fighting and time to keep pushing and be the best you can be.
In Newport News, Zach Dahlheimer, News 3.
All right, time now coming up on 7:21.
We just got an alert of a tornado warning literally right this second. So let me switch over here into our scene and turn off our whistles, and I'll get the full updates on here for you. In fact, since I'm back here in the Weather Center, let me just give you the, pull up the information here on that tornado warning. And we'll zoom in on the radar system here and get the full updates on that. This is, let me zoom out here, put this into the current. We do have that tornado warning in that band that I was talking about of rain, where we're looking at having the potential for some of those tornadoes that did just move through. Let me switch over scenes here into, actually, can we pull up in the control room weather 2 for the system right now? That's where we've got the radar pulled up. That'll be a little bit easier to work with here. if we can make that switch in the control room so we can talk about the, there we go. Okay. So now we can, that's weather 1. I need weather 2 pulled up if you can. Thank you. So this is what we're looking at with that tornado warning, this highlighted area here that is just to the north of Hertford, including Mintonsville, just including Mintonsville there as well. We're actually going to switch into different, sorry about this. Let me zoom in here a little bit closer so we can get a little bit more information and switch our radar scene into a better view so we can get more details on here as well for you. So let me zoom in here and set this into our current views. And I also want to get a quick view here. Okay. Let me also get this other information for you. So the tornado warning has been issued that is going to be in effect for us, including Pasquotank County, Perquimans County, Gates County, and Chowan counties. Again, that's that highlighted area that we do see on the map currently. We're looking at having this tornado warning that's going to be continuing for us with northwest winds moving at 35 miles per hour. We're going to be continuing to see this storm, as I just mentioned, moving to the northwest at 35 miles per hour. So I can go ahead and put a track on this as well for you. Let me jump into this other scene here real quick as well. Get a little bit clearer visuals for you. Give me just a second. Our radar is updating. Here we go. There we go. Now we have all of our tags on there for you. So it's until 7:45 a.m. Again, it is this included highlighted area. We're looking at that going to be continuing to impact us for the next several minutes. I'll continue to be on air and, of course, monitoring this for the next several minutes. Looks like that's going to be in effect for the next 20 minutes. And I'm also going to be hopping over. We can get this set up so I can hop on air and actually point some things out for you. Give me just a moment here. If we can just move this over into our 9-mon set, that'll be a little bit easier to work with here. So we are looking at having this tornado warning. As I mentioned, it was moving to the northwest. I believe I said northwest at 35 miles per hour. I'll get the cities on here in a second. Sorry, just getting a little bit set up here on our system. Give me just a second. All right, so let me put a track on this so we can get a better view of what we're exactly looking at. And let me draw that out. I said northwest of about 35 miles per hour. We can get a little track on the cities for you going here. So it looks like if we can pull up the 9-mon set as well in the control room, that would be a little bit helpful as well. We're going to be seeing this impacting areas of Parkville in 7 minutes, in Belvedere in 17 minutes, Mittensville 29 minutes, and Chappaneck in 2 minutes. So if you're in any of those areas that I just listed, good idea to get into your safe place right now, as we are going to be continuing to see this system moving through here. That's going to be impacting us again for the next several minutes. I'll move that down just a little bit so we can see that not over the top of the warning. There we go. Now we've got everything situated here for you. So I'll slide this podium over so we can see this a little bit more as well. So again, we're looking at that. If you're in Tar Heel, that's where it's already moving through. Ballard Crossroads in 6 minutes, Cannon Ferry 14 minutes, 19 minutes in Center Hill, and 27 minutes in Yipman Station. So if you're in any of those areas that I just listed, good idea to get into your safe place. Actually, I believe that just, I am sorry here, that edited, there we go. That's the better places here. We're gonna redraw that track as well, because that was drawn in a weird way. I think I must have accidentally hit that. Northwest to 35 miles per hour is what we are looking at this moving through. There we go. Chappaneck in 3 minutes, Parksville in 7 minutes. Peach, 23 minutes, and Beckford Junction, 29 minutes. That's what we're expecting at this center of this system to be moving through. So make sure that you are in your safe place if you are in any of those locations that I did just name off. We are going to be seeing this system continuing to head our way. I do expect possibly, this is what we're talking about, with these spin-up tornadoes within some of these cells that we're going to be seeing with this system continuing to move through for us as we do head throughout the next few hours. So that's that band that I was talking about just a little bit ago in our earlier broadcast, if you caught that. In these systems, these tropical systems, we've got different bands that move through, right? This is one of the bands that's moving through for us right now, and that's the band that's going to be continuing to track to the north. So I would not be surprised if we do see this continuing to be extended a little bit longer. Of course, I'll stay on air and continue to keep you updated if we see anything else spinning up. But it is one of those brief spin-up tornadoes that we've been talking about as possible with tropical systems. So with tropical systems, what you have happening as it moves over land, that's when we see some of that spin-up rotation. So winds slow down at the ground, but they stay pretty strong aloft. So that causes that spin, which causes some of these tornadoes to pick up. Make sure that you are getting down into your safe place as we do have this tornado warning. Again, I have those counties that are highlighted, those locations of where we're expecting that storm to continue to move. If we can actually switch over in the control room to Weather 1 computer, that would be helpful as well. Now that I do have all of that continued to be set up here, just so we can talk a little bit about what exactly I'm going to be tracking here. I can give you a little bit of a better visual coming up in just a second. All right, so it looks like we have, I believe, switched over on that. There we go. So we're going to look at the velocity of this system and see what exactly we are looking at. So I'm going to take off that track, and I'm actually going to be zooming in just a little bit more here for us. We're going to use our scope tool to see what exactly we're looking at with some of that rotation here. So it looks like right over the top of Parkville. That's where it does look like we have that rotation that is currently situated. So if you are in Parkville, make sure that you are getting down into your safe place. Again, we are looking at this impacting Pasquotank, Perquimans, Gates, as well as our communities there. Parkville, that's where it looks like that rotation is currently situated. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so we can get a better view of exactly what we're looking at within this system. We're going to be seeing this continuing until 7:45 a.m. So we've got another 15 minutes on this tornado warning. But again, we can get a little bit of a better view when we do look at the velocity. So there we go, zoomed in just a little bit greater for you. So it's moving just a little bit farther off of Parkville right now. Looks like it is moving pretty quickly. And it is doing that, as I mentioned. It said that it was moving at about 35 miles per hour to the northwest there. So Parkville, just passed over the top of you. Where we see these blues and these greens, that's where the winds are spinning up. So that's where it looks like we have that greatest chance for some rotation. And it does look like that's some pretty good signature of a brief spin-up tornado that has developed. So make sure that if you are in any of these areas, that you are making it into your safe place right now. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, put another track on here for you so you can see exactly what we're looking at within the next areas that it's going to be headed. We'll put another track on there so you can get a little bit of a better idea. Let me draw in our line here, and then we're going to zoom out northwest to 35 miles per hour. I'm also going to pull up here in just a second, see if we've got any other updates coming in from the National Weather Service as far as what exactly, if we have any damage that's been reported, if anything had been confirmed there. But again, it just moved through Parkville. If you are in Nicanor, that's headed your way in about 9 minutes. It's headed towards Peach in 16 minutes. And in about 22 minutes, looks like it's headed towards Beckford Junction, and 24 minutes for Hoffler's Fork. So just be mindful of that. Hoffler's Fork, you're just outside of that tornado warning area, but I would still make sure that you're headed towards your safe place right now. So really, especially if you are in Nicanor or if you are in Peach, that's where it's going to be headed towards next. So we're going to pull up here. If you give me just a second, I'm going to pull up and just double check the NWS chat here and see what exactly we have, if we have any reports of anything, because that was a pretty good signature that we were seeing with that tornado spin up potential there. But again, just make sure that you are headed down into your safe place. Again, those safe places, a reminder for you. If you're headed down, make sure that if you go to your basement, if you have a basement, I know a lot of folks around here don't have a basement, so it's best to go into a stairwell or into a bath. An interior space was going to be the best place on the lowest level. That's where you want to go for a safe place during this tornado warning. If you are within that area, then make sure that you are headed down into those safe locations. You want to make sure that you don't have any windows. A closet is also another good option. As many walls between you and the exterior is always best, especially not having any windows. A bathroom is always a good option because a bathtub is anchored in very well into your house. So if you can, it's always good to hop in there as long as your bathroom doesn't have any windows and it is in an interior space. It's good just because that is where you have some solid support. Of course, make sure that you're covering your head as well. And if you are in an area where you do have a mobile home, it's recommended to not stay in there. Those are not safe places to be during a tornado. So if you've got a few minutes and you can walk to a nearby sturdier structure, whether that's going to be a building like a gas station, or if you've got a neighbor that you can go into their house for some shelter as well, that's also a great idea. Again, we've got this tornado warning that's going to be continuing for us as we do head throughout the next several minutes. It looks like they did just pare back that tornado warning. The system is moving rapidly for us as they have just pared down that tornado warning, but still that's going to be in effect for a little while here. Going to try, let's see here. I'm having there we go. Okay. Hopping into just seeing what the National Weather Service has been saying within this storm. They did provide a little bit of an update here. So it says that it is still moving to the northwest at 35 miles per hour. It does look like it's has just radar confirmed, but again, still make sure that you are taking shelter into a safe place. Again, they did just pare that back and they're following this storm. And honestly, looking at that radar, what I am going to show you here, I'm going to go back to the full radar screen so that way you can see a better view here. Looks like on radar, we're starting to see that becoming a little bit more of a hook shape, which means that's usually what you see within a tornado that's spinning up. So there is a good signature that there is the potential for a tornado that has developed over in that location. Again, that is just to the east of, or to the west, excuse me, of Parkville. And I'm going to put on another scope track here just to see a better view of this potential for the tornado. And honestly, the signature has, it looks like it's strengthened a little bit. So that's not good. Definitely if you're within this polygon, go to your safe places. We'll talk about this real quick. We've got the blues and those darker greens. They are mixing together. We can see that's a little bit of a clear signature of some rotation. And even just when I put on that scope, you can see how quickly it's moving. Again, that's moving to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour. So I'm going to zoom out here one more time. I'm going to put on that track since this is moving pretty rapidly for us. So we've got a little bit of a better idea. So it looks like that center of rotation is right about here. And I'm going to draw that out northwest of about 35 miles per hour, which actually stretches out pretty far. As I mentioned, it's moving pretty rapidly for us. So we do have within this system here, 10 minutes is when it looks like it's going to be headed towards Peach, Beckford Junction in 16 minutes, 18 minutes for Hoffler's Fork, 29 minutes to head towards Gates County High School. And again, notice that I did draw this out a little bit further extended than this tornado warning box because it's moving so fast and because it does look like there's a pretty decent signature within this system. I would recommend if you're in any of those areas near that Gates County High School, even though you've got about 29 minutes, I would still make your way down into those safe places as we are looking at having that system moving very rapidly off to the northwest. So make sure that you are taking those precautions in case we do see that warning get extended. And with how quickly this is moving, I would not be surprised to see that happening, to see that potentially being extended. So again, make sure that you are headed into your safe place. We're going to zoom out here. I'm going to put on that velocity track a little bit more. I know velocity is a little bit harder, excuse me, to understand sometimes, but it does help see the detail of that storm a little bit more. So I'll have that explainer up there. So if you're just joining, you can kind of see exactly what I've been keeping an eye on. So here we can see exactly where that rotation is. I can pinpoint that a little bit better for you. I'm going to slide off a little bit more to the side here. The blues and the greens where they're intertwining, that's where we're looking at having some of that rotation that has picked up and has spun up. So that's what we're concerned with seeing potentially on the ground. Again, very common in tropical systems to see these brief spin up tornadoes. This has been our first tornado warning with this system, but I would not be surprised if we did see a few more of these spin up tornadoes. This is going to be the next dangerous few hours for us as we have one of these stronger bands that's moving through. So now we've had Tropical Storm Ophelia that did just make landfall about an hour ago. It made landfall in Emerald Isle, North Carolina, but it is headed in our direction. And when a tropical system makes landfall, the winds at the surface do lose some speed, and then you have those higher winds that are up towards the atmosphere, higher up in the atmosphere, and that's where we see that rotation that gets picked up. That's why it's very common in tropical systems as we have things moving from water, moving onto land, seeing some of the spin up activity. So keeping an eye on this, it does look like it's starting to fall apart a little bit, which is good news. That's the latest scan, not seeing those bright blues anymore, which is good. That means that it is falling apart for us. We do still have that tornado warning that is in effect for another about 7 minutes here or so. So I will continue to monitor this, but I just want to say that it does look like it is starting to fall apart, which is definitely some good news for us right now. I'm going to also put on another track here. Actually, let me get the center of that. I believe the center of that was right about just to the north of Belvedere. So let me put a track on that one just to see where exactly, even though it does look like it's falling apart, it could always reestablish itself. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully that was just the quick spin up and it only lasted about 10 minutes or so. But we do have that, again, as I said, moving to the northwest at about 35 miles per hour. So Joppa, that's about 4 minutes headed towards you. We got Mittensville in about 11 minutes, Walton Crossroads in 12 minutes, 20 minutes for Easton Crossroads, and 24 minutes for Gatesville. Let me put that back on the full screen here so you can see that a little bit bigger. Some of those community names that I did just list. So that's what we're looking at right now. Keeping an eye on this. This tornado warning is in effect until 7:45. So we've got another 7 minutes on this warning that I will, of course, continue to keep you updated on and continue to monitor for you. There we go. Now I can finally grab it and move it down so you can see it in a little bit of a better area, listing some of those cities. So hopefully you can see that a little bit better. Again, that's Joppa. It's about to head towards you. Mittensville, Walton Crossroads, Easton Crossroads, and Gatesville is where we do have that signature that's going to be headed towards you. I'm going to take this off the map just a little bit. I'm going to zoom in again just a bit just because it helps me looking at the velocity of it so I can get a better update. It does look like that's starting to fall apart. And then now just the latest scan for us. There's still a little bit of a signature that it could be starting to tighten up again. That's right here where we're seeing those bright blues and some of those dark greens that are intermingling. That's what I'm continuing to keep an eye on for you. So that is still the same system. Still, if you're underneath this tornado warning, do go into your safe place. That is an interior room away from windows. If you have an interior bathroom or a closet, that's a good option. The bathtub is anchored into the house very well. So if you have a bathroom that's more interior, that's also a good location. Make sure that you're covering your head. If you've got a helmet, that's always a good option for us as well to make sure that we are staying safe. Again, not safe if you're in a mobile home. If you've got time, if you're one of those communities that I've listed, you've got about 20 minutes or so. If you've got a nearby sturdy structure, I would go into that sturdy structure right now to make sure that you are able to stay safe. But we do still have this tornado warning that is in effect for another few minutes. I'm going to check here and see if there's any updates from the National Weather Service on if they're planning on extending this, if they're planning on letting it go or not. Looks like it's still just the same updates where they're continuing it. They did shrink it back just a little bit to continue with that movement that's very quickly here, but it does look like it is still going to be remaining in effect until 7:45 for the northwestern Perquimans County, southeastern Gates, and north central Trewan counties. And again, that's moving pretty quickly to the northwest at 35 miles per hour. This is really the area that I'm concerned with it being in right now, as we do have the best signature for potentially something spinning up right there. Let me also flip out here, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And we can see just a broader view real quick of this system. I just want to talk about the entire system for a second here. So if you're tuning in, we can get a better idea. I do also see, lots of flooding within, it looks like, some of those other warnings down to the south. I want to monitor what's happening just down to our south for a second, just because within these systems, what happens is usually if you have a history of that, that's going to be continuing to impact us as this system continues to move to the north. So this is a broad view of Ophelia. Again, it just made landfall about an hour ago across Emerald Isle in North Carolina, and that's going to be continuing to track more towards the north for us. Notice around the center of the storm, we've got some flood warnings. I do expect us to potentially see some of that flooding as we get into later on today, but this band that we're dealing with right now that just moved through the Albemarle Sound that's pushing up towards our Virginia communities, that's what I'm most concerned with within this system. It looks like the center of that could potentially move through our inland communities, but as it's tracking off to the north, it could potentially just miss us. So mainly concerned with this band that we've got right now, which is where we do have that spin-up tornado warning. Just zooming out just to see if I'm looking at any other areas to monitor here. But again, right now we do have that for Perquimans, Chewan counties that we're looking at impacting. So right near Mintonsville is where, if you're in your safe place, that is where you should be. If you're not, get there pretty soon. Gatesville area, I do expect that storm to be headed towards you as well. Even if we don't see any of that spin-up tornado activity by the time it gets to Gatesville, if they do allow this warning to expire, it's still going to be seeing some of those stronger wind signatures, is what I was seeing within this cell. So I just want to check the view of this again. So it does look like it's fallen apart a little bit more, which is always good news. That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that it's just a quick little spin up that doesn't impact anybody, that does continue to dissipate. Not seeing any clear signatures, which is good, but as I mentioned with these tropical systems, it's very easy to get something to rapidly spin up and continue to impact for a little bit. Usually they are short-lived, so again, I'm going to just make sure, I'm going to double check that. Looks like I'm not seeing any super clear signatures, just seeing some of those stronger wind gusts within this system from what I'm looking at right now. So I do think that it does look like not seeing any clear signatures, but again, very easy to see something that could tighten up again. So if you're still within anything near this tornado warning that has been issued, I would recommend going to your safe place, at least having that safe place really close that you can hop into, just in case we see anything else developing within this system. Again, this warning is set to expire in another 2 minutes. So I'll stay on air here, even though it looks like things are improving, which is good. I hope they continue to improve for us. But this band is going to be continuing to push into Virginia. And so this is the band that I was talking about a little bit earlier, if you joined us in our broadcast around 6 a.m., that if we see anything with a possible spin-up tornado, it would be within this system. And that is what we could, this band that's moving through, and that's what we could still potentially see as we head throughout the next couple of hours here. So that's going to be continuing, as I mentioned, zooming out on this band. You know what, I can actually, let me just put this into a time lapse so we can get a better view of this band that is continuing to move through. So this outer band from Ophelia, that's going to be pushing towards our Virginia communities, could be impacting some of our inland communities here relatively soon. If we see anything spinning up, I do expect it to be within this next band that will be impacting us over the next couple of hours. So still have your weather alerts turned on. We are definitely not in the clear. And there they just updated it. They did decide to extend this tornado warning. Looks like it's taking more of that east-northeasterly track west-northwesterly track, as it is going to be continuing to head in that direction within that band. So I'm going to stop this on a lapse. I'm going to see an update now. Let me go check on our National Weather Service chat for an update on this latest warning that has been just issued for us. So this warning is going to be in effect for us. It's now moving to the west at 30 miles per hour. We've got that warning in effect until 8:15 a.m., so we'll continue to monitor that for you here. Again, I do believe that they extended this. I'm going to put on the track to see velocity. Again, I'm looking at the difference in wind speed. You're going to see the reds and you're going to see the greens, and that's because there's a difference of where the radar beam is hitting. So that's just the difference in winds that are towards and away from the radar. we're not concerned with seeing those big differences in the colors, but I'm looking for those small differences like we saw a little bit earlier with that signature. And again, right now, not seeing any of that clear signatures, but I do suspect that the National Weather Service decided to extend that warning because we did see that pulsing a little bit in that warning just that we had a second ago. And that is going to be continuing for us as we head throughout the next several minutes here within this system. So I'm going to zoom in again just a little bit more. I'm going to put a track on this. It's a little bit muddy, as I mentioned, so there's not a clear area of where I'm seeing any of that rotation, which is good, but still, if you're in any of these locations that I'm about to put on the map, good idea to make sure that you are in your safe place. So Mintonsville definitely is where it looks like we are seeing some of that activity right now. Let me go put on that track here. I'm going to put on the track right around the Mintonsville area, and we're going to extend that. It looks like it's moving more west, northwesterly, and they did say that's now moving at, I believe, 30 miles per hour. Yeah, it's moving at about 30 miles per hour. Let me make that 30 mile per hour track for you, so we can see a little bit better view of what exactly we are expecting as this system is starting to head our way. Okay, so if you are in Mintonsville, again, I mentioned it's pretty much over the top of you right now. Definitely make sure that you are headed into your safe place. You should already be in your safe place. We've been talking about this for a little bit, headed towards you. If you are in Carter, that's going to be headed towards you in 11 minutes. Harrellsville in 20 minutes. Cherry School, 22 minutes. And if you're near Petty Shore, 26 minutes is when that is expected to head towards you. I'm going to talk about those safe places once again. Definitely a good idea. You need to be in any of those safe places as we do head within this event. If you're in that highlighted area, any of those communities that I did just name, I'll continue to leave them on there. So you definitely want to make sure that you are going into an interior space on the lowest level of your house. That's going to be the best place. You want to be as many walls between you and the outside as possible. So an interior room that has no windows is going to be best on the lowest level of your home. Of course, if you have a basement, that's best, but I know a lot of us out here don't have any of those basements. So make sure that you are headed in those areas. Also make sure bathtub is a great idea if you do have that as an interior space. That's going to be the safest places for you to go. Don't be by any of the exterior walls. That's what, or outside. That's not a great place. And again, mobile homes. If you are in a mobile home and you've got time, if you're in one of those places that I mentioned, like Petty Shore, that's got 25 minutes heads up, make sure that you are moving if you're near in a mobile home in that area, that you're headed to a sturdier structure, whether that be a nearby gas station. You can hunker down in there. If that's going to be a nearby neighbor that you're able to hunker down with, just make sure that you are getting to a safe place. Mobile homes are not a safe place, even in these weaker spin-up tornadoes that we usually see within some of these tropical systems. A good idea, if you are headed into your safe place and you can, grab a helmet. That's also going to be protecting you in case we have any debris that is around you. You want to have a way to protect yourself. If you don't have a helmet, maybe grab a blanket, try to put that over the top of you as well. That's going to protect you a little bit more. We also just want to make sure that you are staying safe right now. I'm going to also put this on zoom in the bigger view of the radar for you. I just want to check real quick. I'll put on these communities here in a little bit. We'll read through them real quick. Mittensville, pretty much right over the top of you. Carter, 9 minutes. Harrellsville, 18 minutes. Cherry School, 20 minutes, 24 minutes for Petty Shore. I want to put on the velocity here again. I'm going to put on what exactly the velocity means next to it as I'm doing that, so we can see what I'm talking about within looking with this storm. It kind of gives us an x-ray of the storm, so that's usually very helpful. But not seeing any clear signatures, which is good. But as I mentioned, this system did pulse a little bit earlier, so I do suspect the National Weather Service has continued this morning until 8:15 a.m. just in case it does continue to pulse any more within this system. It's very common in these tropical systems. So we do have those winds that are moving towards in a way that's the different colors on the map. So the greens and the reds, that's our winds moving toward and away from the radar. So the big difference right there, that's just from the radar beam. The the radar site itself. We're looking for small differences like we can see in the model there. So we are looking, that shows that there's some rotation there, and I'm not seeing that right now, but still make sure that you're taking the storm seriously. And if you are in that warning or any of those communities that I did list, that you are going into your safe place right now. I do want to, I'm going to take this off so we can get a broader view of this system. So again, that's with highlighted areas of this tornado warning. It is still continuing to move to the west at 30 miles per hour. I'm going to check and make sure we don't have any more updates coming in from the National Weather Service. Looks like this has all still been radar indicated, but earlier there was a pretty good signature of some rotation within that system that I was looking at when this warning was initially issued several minutes ago. So let me put on the track here again. We're going to start it around the Mintonsville area because that's where it looks like would likely be. Could be a little bit ahead of that right now. It looks like this is starting to slow down just a little bit. When it first spun up, it was moving pretty quickly. Now it's moving about 30 miles per hour versus the 35 miles per hour that it was doing earlier. So again, Mintonsville pretty much over the top of you, headed towards Carter in about 8 minutes, Gatesville in about 17 minutes, Ballard Crossroads in 22 minutes, and Rays Beach in 25 minutes. If you're in any of those places that I listed, make sure that you are going down into your safe place. That's where we do want to be during these tornado events. If you've got that warning over you, or even if you're just outside of this tornado warning box, definitely a good idea to make sure that you are headed down into those locations, those safe places, if you're just outside this box in case this gets extended. This is the main band that we are continuing to keep an eye on. Again, I'll zoom out so we can see this whole system, see exactly what I'm talking about with this system moving through. Let me just zoom out here real quick. And we can see that outer band that is going to be continuing to move. So this system will continue to wrap around. I can put that on motion. That'll make it a little bit easier here to see exactly what we're looking at. So that system, one of these bands from Tropical Storm Ophelia, which just made landfall a little bit about an hour and a half ago now, that is going to be continuing to move to the west. So eventually this system is moving, tracking to the west, and eventually it'll be headed towards the southwest there. So as this continues to wrap around the center of Ophelia. So we're going to be continuing to monitor that, again, pushing a little bit into Virginia potentially as well. We've got some of these heavier downpours starting to move into Southside, as well as pushing into the portions of the peninsula near Williamsburg, as well as across some of our inland communities like Franklin. So we've got some more of these bands that's going to be headed our way this morning, is when you do still need to be weather aware. Eventually, it looks like we should be seeing Ophelia starting to clear out of here as we get into later on this afternoon. Again, our inland communities could be getting hit by the way side of the center of Ophelia as we get into later this afternoon throughout this evening. So again, still stay weather alert throughout the day today. We do still have this tornado warning that is in effect for another 20 minutes here, it looks like. So we'll continue to monitor. I'm going to keep updating you, still putting on some of those tracks. But right now it is going to be continuing that we're watching to impact portions of Gates County, Chowan County, as well as Hertford County, and that's going to be impacting us for until about 8:15. We'll see if they do end up extending that warning once again. But as I mentioned, it's very common in some of these tropical systems that we do see some of this activity spinning up. Let me put on that track again, so if anybody is just joining us, they can see if their community is highlighted within this. Again, I do want to mention, it's not a very populated area that this is in, but it is very important that we do continue to track this. It says it's affecting about 1,400 people, so I know this is a little bit more of a rural area, but still important that we are letting everybody know as these storms do pop up and continue to move through. So moving to about the west, about 30 miles per hour, that's going to be putting this storm, the worst of it, is going to be headed, again, right over Mintonsville right now, but it's headed towards Carter in about 7 minutes, Gatesville in 17 minutes, Ballard Crossroads in 22 minutes, and Dildy's Mill in about 29 minutes. There we go. I can grab it. It's a little bit hard to grab it when it's right on top of that warning there. But those are the communities that are highlighted. That's where you need to be in your safe place, if I just named off one of those, as this system does continue to move through. So with these tropical systems, we usually do see some of these spin-up tornadoes. We've been lucky up until this point when we've now seen that tornado warning that has been issued. But that happens because as the tropical system moves over land, those surface speeds speeds do slow down, and then those upper level speeds still stay the same. So that causes what we call wind shear, a big difference within that speed, and that allows things to spin up. We've obviously already got the moisture within this system as we've been seeing a lot of rain. That's one of the key ingredients to see some tornadic formation as well. So again, expecting to see this throughout this morning. Everybody still needs to be weather aware. Even if you're not within this tornado warning, have ways to get alerts, because it would not be surprising to see another couple of these situations spinning up for us now that Ophelia has made landfall. Again, that did make landfall officially at 6:20 a.m. near Emerald Isle, North Carolina. So again, the places that are still within this warning that are still being highlighted, that is Carter in 6 minutes, Gatesville in 16 minutes, Ballard Crossroads in 21 minutes, and Dildy's Mill in about 28 minutes. So make sure that you are, again, going into those interior spaces if you are in any of those communities that I did just list off. And I'm going to draw this track again just a little bit further out, a little bit wider track, see if we can get a couple more communities to pop up in here. Yeah, so Gatesville, you're also within that warning. That's going to be towards you in about 28 minutes. You're just right at the border of that warning. Again, if you're right outside of this tornado warning area, I would make sure that you are going into your safe place. As I said, it's kind of muddy. The signature looks kind of muddy, so that we could have anything spinning back up at any moment, potentially within this system. Mintonsville, again, right over the top of you. Pretty much it looks like it's starting to clear out of Mintonsville a little bit right now. Carter, 7 minutes. Gatesville, 17 minutes. Ballard Crossroads in 22 minutes, and you're in about 28 minutes. I'm going to clear out of this, and I just want to check again, seeing the scope. It looks like they did just pare that back, that tornado warning back. So the National Weather Service is keeping a very close eye on this, providing these very quick updates for us as we are seeing the system moving through. I'm going to put this, stop this track, see if we can see anything. Doesn't look like any clear signatures that I'm seeing currently within this warned area, but we are still seeing some of that activity that is moving through. So again, as I mentioned, it's a little bit of a muddy signature that we're looking at here. So I don't see any clear-cut area where it looks like anything is necessarily on the ground right now, but still, as I mentioned, anything could spin up at any moment. That's why we do still have that tornado warning there. We did see that system pulsing a little bit earlier. Looks like I would say the best bet for some activity could be around the Harrellsville area right now. That's where it looks like the best bet for some of that rotation is. But again, if you're anywhere within this warning, make sure that you are in your safe place in that lowest level. We do still have this warning that is going to be remaining in effect until 8:15 a.m. I'm going to see if the National Weather Service has updated anything right now. I know they pared that warning back, so that way it is just including Gates County and Hertford County, as that system is continuing to move pretty quickly, actually, continuing to move within that band. So it looks like it's still moving to the west at 30 miles per hour. Still radar indicated is what we are looking at with this system, radar indicated rotation. And they're going to be continuing that warning until 8:15 a.m. So we still got another about 15 minutes on this warning, and we'll still stay on here, continuing to watch it to see if we do see anything that's going to be popping up within this system.